In our latest satellite imagery piece, we've taken a look at Qayyarah Air Base in Iraq. This base is particularly interesting because of its proximity to Mosul. It was taken over recently by Iraqi and US forces in July, actually. And since then, we've seen a few things happen at this base, but most of all, we want to talk about the continued restrictions to the use of the base that we're still seeing in the imagery. First of all, the satellite imagery immediately shows the massive thick black smoke coming from the burning oil fields, which were set on fire by fleeing Islamic State fighters. But more importantly, when we look at the airbase itself, we can see the extent of destruction and sabotage that was actually conducted by the Islamic State before abandoning the base. We can very clearly see in some parts of the airbase that objects have been placed all over the runway, which obviously prevents any aircraft from landing there. They did this both during their occupation of the airbase to prevent any potential air assault that would allow US forces or Iraqi forces to land on the runways and take it back from them. But they've obviously left this in place as they left, which requires a massive cleanup action by the Iraqis and the US to be able to actually use it as an airfield. We can also see that since the runway's been taken back by Iraqi and US forces, they've actually built a wall that runs right across the runway. This, of course, makes it impossible for aircraft to land on the runway and suggests to us that there's no actual intent by the Iraqis or the US to land aircraft on this base on the longer term. Then apart from the actual runways themselves, one of the really notable things here is the sheer extent of damage throughout the airbase. Pretty much all structures, whether they are support buildings, hangars to hold airplanes, they've pretty much all been flattened by the Islamic State by the time they left there. A very true scorched earth strategy, if you will. Right now, of course, the US and Iraq are rebuilding the base. Some of this is visible in imagery, but for security reasons, obviously, we're not showing these parts of the base. But over time, as they continue to build this out, the base will start playing a much more significant role, specifically into logistically supporting that impending offensive on Mosul.